On a hot July morning, I arrived at the West Palm Beach, Florida train station. It had been a miserable 38-hour train ride from Chicago. I had never taken a train trip before and didn't know what to expect. For the first time in my life, I was alone, without parents, family, or friends. At 18 years old, I had left everyone and everything I had ever known to live in a place I had never been to before. In my pocket was a deck of cards my mother gave to me the morning I left home. She told me that I would need them to pass the time on my train ride. It would be the last thing she would ever give to me. Later in life, I thought back on that day. Playing cards was a way for my mother and I to spend time together. Food gardening was too. But with the advent of electronic games and supermarkets, card games and home food gardens were beginning to fade into the past. As my aunts and uncles and parents grew sick and died, I saw something slip away as I watched helplessly from halfway across the continent. When the last of them were gone, the final threads that tethered me to my heritage, to my culture, were broken.
Never will I forget my friends and family.
That deck of cards was a gift to me from my mom, as was the love of growing food. I still have that deck of cards, and throughout my entire life, I will always carry with me the love of growing food. In the 3 decades since I moved to South Florida, I lived in a dense urban setting with little green space. I only ate food that came from supermarkets and not from family farms or my own backyard, which is how I was raised. I missed the delicious food from that time, which had been replaced by supermarket produce with all of the flavor and texture of wet cardboard. I recalled stories my parents told me. They had lived through the Great Depression and World War II. Those events exposed a serious weakness in the urban lifestyle, where residents were on life support with respect to their food supply, and they relied entirely on food that had been transported more than 1,000 miles to their store. Once those external resources become threatened, so does their well-being. And I had become one of them. I also recalled my Aunt Elizabeth, whose entire backyard was a food garden. Instead of grass, her backyard grew almost all of the fruits and vegetables her household needed. I wondered, could we still do that today? Would it be worth it? How would it benefit me, my household, my community? I knew if I kept the right kinds of records, I could answer some of these questions. The expectation from my neighbors, my husband, and my community was to plant and maintain a meticulously manicured lawn. Turning my entire backyard into an urban food garden was, well, a radical idea. With this, I grabbed my shovel and rake and began to work. What I found was not just a reconnection with my heritage, but a key to addressing some of the greatest challenges facing humanity today. Challenges like climate change, energy resource conservation, habitat loss, food shortages, and food insecurity. The solution to these problems lies in our own backyards.